What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Hello and welcome to Brothers in Tech. This is our ongoing technology for the family, for the home tech show here on themesh.tv. I am one of the Brothers in Tech, Alan Jackson, and looking at me across the country here, joining us is my only other brother in tech. My brother
your
Brian.
better brother. You're your favorite brother. It is your favorite brother, right?
You are my favorite brother. That is very, very true.
All right,
my brother Brian.
I did get something. Hey,
Brian
how are you
Jackson.
doing, Alan?
Great. Good to be talking with you again. This is always fun when we get together and talk about technology, especially focusing on technology that really has more of a personal home family application. And
I'm excited. I'm excited because this is our deep dive.
Oh, this
right?
is the deepest dive.
This is the one we love. This is the one we really enjoy getting into because this is next level stuff, right?
It is, and
I'm excited.
We get into a main topic every month, and our main topic for this month has been home digital assistants. You know, the Google Assistant, your Amazon Echoes, and your Apple HomePods. What do they do? What are they useful for? What are the different hardware involved in them? So we had our main episode, and we've had 2 deep dives since then. We've gotten a little deeper into expanding and making better use of these devices. Today, we're talking about one specific service, one specific website app that we both are fans of, and kind of take your digital assistants to a whole nother level. And the service we're going to talk about is called IFTTT.com, and that stands for, Brian, make sure I don't mess this up, If then that.
Correct. If then that.
I don't know why I have the hardest time remembering the words for it, but IFTTT. Those are the letters
Correct.
you need to remember for this.
And it's IFTTT.com is how you get to that service. Yep.
You can get to the service through the website, or you can actually download the IFTTT app for your phone or your tablet. So either way, you've got access to this service. Brian, kind of tell us in a nutshell, what is this service all about?
Yeah, so if then that, and it's been around a while. I think the IFTTT kind of tagline came a little later, but if then that basically is if you want to connect your services together and make them start to talk to one another, then you can find ways to create a series of rules. Right? And that's why I kind of think about it is that these are a bunch of rules that you're going to create that says, if this happens, then please do this. And you are kind of giving it access to a number of different things. If this light turns on, please also do this, right? And you can kind of tell it that there are some things that you want to take the next step rather than, the way the Amazon Alexa, the Google Home, the way they all work is they work through these skills. And you may say, tell me a joke, and it's going to tell you that joke. And if you want something else, you have to tell it, do that now. This may be saying, well, every time I have this thing happen, I want you to go ahead and do this next thing so I don't have to ask for it, or have these different automation pieces that are occurring. So this is a really exciting, and it's one of the things that I love to go and play around and look at all the things that people have created, because it's these rules basically have been created by other people, developers, and there's just a bunch of them that you can enable on your own. So you can go and say, oh, that sounds really interesting. Let me enable that through my IFTTT app. And then you connect the different services to it. Say, yes, I want my Alexa to have access to that, and I want my maybe my security system to have access. And then all of a sudden it starts to work. So it's really exciting. You can create your own. That's something that I have not done. I haven't really seen a need to do it because there's so many of them out there that have already been created.
Every need I've had for an automated script, I've found one already developed.
Somebody's done it.
And the great thing is that it's very much like what we talked about in the last deep dive with the Alexa skills. You go into this library, you find one you like, and you add it to your account. So once you've added it to your account, it is now available for you to use. And many of these actions can be voice activated, obviously through your digital home assistant.
Yep.
So it's deeper than what we talked about in the last episode, because these aren't just pre-made actions. Like you said, they are sequential, meant to trigger another action. And I know it's kind of maybe a little hard in theory to explain without going into actual examples. I think we'll do that here in a few moments, kind of go through some real world examples of what some of these are. But it is amazing if you go to the website, you go to the app, and you start searching how many different actions you can find. These are great actions if you want something that automatically happens on a certain time every day based on when something else is going on. If you want to kind of have it going as an ongoing script that just is always happening on a routine basis. Plus, there's a lot of devices that IFTTT kind of has some connections to. Like right now, if you go, right now today, when I go and visit the IFTTT website, on the homepage, they have a whole section about connections to iRobot, like the your Roombas, your automated vacuums, or at home, ways of having that be scripted and part of a chain of commands that happens on a certain basis. Like,
yeah,
for
did
example,
you look at a few of those, Alan?
I did, and they're really cool.
Yeah,
So
super
the idea
cool.
is that if just for an example, these are starting to get kind of very random. I have not used these myself yet, but just seeing what they can do. That, for example, if you have a smart Wi-Fi thermostat in your home, one of those that can detect whether someone's at home or not, you can actually set up an IFTTT script to say, you know what? Anytime the smart thermostat tells us that nobody's in the house because it's not detecting any movement, we're gonna run the Roomba, the vacuum cleaner around the house. So just thinking about that, think about what that means. That means, yes, you could set up a skill with Alexa to say, hey, Roomba, vacuum my floor, and it could do that. But to set it up as a routine through IFTTT to say, anytime this happens, the thermostat says there's nobody here during these hours, run the vacuum cleaner and do that every day.
Yeah, that's so slick.
That's really pretty cool.
Very slick.
That's where things get really exciting with this. So it's truly think about it in terms of you're writing a script of what you want to have happen in order through different devices or services you may have. I haven't tried writing my own. Like you said, Brian, I've just found way too many good ones already built, easy to add onto my account. When you set up an IFTTT account, you need to do it either through a Facebook account or a Google account. And once you do, you also have to give it permission to link up to some of your other services. So for example, if you have an Alexa, an Amazon Echo, and you're using Alexa, you have to connect it up with your account so that then it can tie into Alexa and make sure it's using it the right way. Same thing with your Google account if you're using a Google Assistant or any Google devices. So there is some setup on the front end to get it going for sure, and linking it up with all your devices and all your accounts. And then going in and you're adding your, either from the library or you're building your own, they call them applets, that you're basically building or using. And that controls the different steps of the script you're putting together. So, yeah.
And if you're somebody that doesn't really want to get involved in creating these things, I think you can also even suggest some of these and let developers run with them. So there's ways you don't have to go in and actually get your hands dirty on understanding the sequence of things. But as you said, there's so many of them up there that you can generally find either the something that does that or something that does even a better version of what you were thinking of. And so some great examples. So I kind of feel like, the easy way for us to go here, Alan, would be to maybe talk through some examples. This feels like one of those services, we're not going to really talk about how to actually get it set up and go through the ins and outs of that, but rather give you the ideas of here are some of the things that can be really useful. So in a way, we ought to just make our bits today our experiences and the things that we think are pretty cool about this service. Does that sound
I'm totally
good
with that. I think that's a great idea. Because it's one of those things where the real joy in this kind of service is putting some real world application uses to it. So I think let's do that. Let's talk about some of the things, some of our favorite uses for this kind of service and that we recommend people might want to check out for that.
Yeah, I thought maybe I would start with the few that I actually do use.
Sure.
I'll mention one of those first, and then I'll talk about some others that I'd like to use that I haven't done yet. But so one of the things that and we'll talk about this probably in a future episode of home security, but I have a Wise security system at home, and by security system, made by Wise, WYZE, and it's really a kind of pieced together type security system, very inexpensive, but it also doesn't have all the features that something like a Simply Safe might. So I have a camera, and the camera is in my house that basically will send me notifications when someone is moving in my living room, which is great. But it doesn't have, built into the Wise service, it does not have the ability to say, if I'm not home, turn this camera on. So what happens is I get notifications when I'm home saying, hey, someone just moved. I'm like, well, that was me. Yes, I get that. yes, I just got up. Thank you for letting me know that.
Annoying.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and it certainly is not something that I'm going to be willing to open up the app every time I get home, turn the camera off, do all of that, right? But given that it's so inexpensive, I love the camera. Well, IFTTT has something that allows you to do that. So it has a Wise set of skills. So one of those skills happens to be you tell IFTTT what your general home range is, and so let's say it's a tenth of a mile radius around your house, and when you leave that, it will then turn your camera on. When you get within that radius, it will turn your camera back off again. So when I get home, when I get usually about 2 blocks away from my house, I'll get a notification on my watch that says, turned your camera off. So that way, when I'm home, I'm not going to get any notifications from the camera anymore. So it was a way of connecting IFTTT with the Wise camera and providing a complete additional set of capabilities to it that the Wise did not already have set up. So
that's awesome.
So basically have kind of this geofencing setup where if you're within a certain area, it's going to do something. And it was really easy to set up. I just said, here's my location. And if you're worried about the fact that IFTTT now knows where you live, well, you can give it a slightly different location, maybe a next door neighbor or something, and then expand it from there and say on a map, stretch it out and say this circle, if I'm within that circle, and I'll go and walk my dog, and I'll notice when I get about 2 blocks away, I'll get a notification that said, okay, we just turned your camera on since you're away. Yeah. And then when I walk back, it turns it back off again. So that's super cool.
Yeah. No, that's really great.
There's one that I use a lot, right?
And again, like you said, these are actions that they're independent actions that you could set up, but they're not triggering one another until you tie them into a service like this that kind of creates that script for you as well. So. Well, let me kind of give you an example of the same kind of idea, that things I can do independently, but yet IFTTT kind of makes them happen in sequence automatically. If I'm listening to a song, whether it's, and there's different actions for different services, but let's say I find myself sometimes I love music videos. I like watching music videos for songs I like. And if I stumble across a video,
do they still have music videos?
They do. I know.
They do
On YouTube. You can find them. They're
okay. All right.
Us, the younger, more in tune, hipper generation still watches music videos. Brian, just to let you know. If I'm watching something, I can actually set it up, have a script that says, "Look, add songs that I like on YouTube, or I could do it on Spotify, to my music." Or add them to a spreadsheet and keep a list of them. So these are 2 different routines. Like, for example, I've got one that when I was using Spotify quite a bit to listen to music, anytime I went and liked a song on Spotify or gave it a thumbs up or whatever the notation was on it, I forget if it's thumbs up or love or heart button or whatever it may be, this was running in the background. It was connected to my Spotify account, and it would then go and create a spreadsheet in my Google Drive account of all the songs that I've liked. Now, you may say, well, I don't understand the point of that. If you're someone like me that likes to kind of keep list of favorite songs together, if I ever want to share a list of favorite songs with someone that maybe doesn't have that same service, or just kind of play around with the idea of like kind of really understanding my favorite music and grouping it, organizing it, whatever. having it go into an automatic spreadsheet is just really, really cool. I think I probably do it just because it's cool. I don't ever know if I really use the spreadsheet for anything, but just to know that these services are now working together. So again, you can link it up to your YouTube account. And if I go and I'm watching a music video on YouTube and I like it or add it to a library or add it to a playlist on YouTube, that can be triggered to now say, add that name to this spreadsheet. So I'm keeping a list of all the music I like, and it just makes it really easy to kind of do my own research on the music I enjoy and finding any patterns or anything else with that.
So will it overwrite? So let's say that you like something and you've already liked it before, or
it puts it as another entry. So, but once you're in a spreadsheet format, finding duplicates is really easy and sorting and all that.
So yours might show like New Kids on the Block 50 times.
Right. 50, 52
Boys,
times,
30.
somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, Backstreet, then NSYNC, then I have my ABBA collection kind of sprinkled throughout.
Right.
Yeah, so it's good stuff.
Yeah. So it's pretty repetitive in your case, but okay.
There's not a lot of variation, but it is good to have there. So anyway, again,
that's very
to me,
cool.
I'm probably more interested in just the connectivity, the fact that it actually does that. It's still pretty amazing to me that I've taken a completely different service like a Spotify or like a YouTube, and I've linked it to a Google spreadsheet, and I don't have to do anything other than just like the music I like, and it's going to show up on this list, which makes it really cool to share and keep up with. So that kind of integration I just think is really fun to work with.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Well, let me give you one that's very similar to that, in that it also uses Google Sheets to keep track of things, which I think is, again, fantastic. And if you think about what are some of the things that I would like to keep track of while I'm doing them, but they become kind of onerous to do. One of those, and I don't use it myself because I don't have a need necessarily for this, but I could see it being extremely useful, would be to track your work hours. So let's say that you're a lawyer and you're someone who is always tracking, I just worked this amount on this project and this amount on this project. There's a skill that you can enable through IFTTT that connects your Google Drive account, and when you push a button on your phone, so you can actually create a little shortcut. You push the button, it begins the timer, and will make an entry in that Google Sheet to say you started work. And then later on, when you're done, you just push the button again, and it puts another entry in there that says you just finished work, and you started again, and it will put a new line.
Yeah,
so
nice.
Basically, at the end, you can go and say, all right, what are my hours that I worked today? Or what are the hours that I was working on this particular project? So another example of doing something simple like pushing a button and automatically having it type in, the day and time of when you started that. So it's a pretty simple thing, but it could be really useful for people that might want to keep track of, when they start and stop certain projects.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And again, it's a great example of things you can do manually, things you could go and kind of keep track of and manually and do whatever kind of moving to another place you need to. But the fact that you can have that now scripted and just have it do that based on initial triggers is what makes this whole service really great. Let me throw out one that may sound like it doesn't really need to be an IFTTT script, but yet there actually is a reason for this. Brian, do you ever use the Find My Phone or Find My function on your iPhone, where you're trying to find either your phone or another device that's on your account that you can't find right now? Yeah.
Yep. I've used it a few times.
So a lot of people use iPhones, but if they don't have a HomePod, I think a HomePod, you have it where you can actually say Find My Phone and it'll do it if you're on an Apple, HomePod plus your iPhone. But most people don't. They have an Alexa or something else. So with a IFTTT script that you can add to your account, you can actually tell it to say, look, Alexa, trigger Find My Phone, or do the Find My Phone on that. As long as your phone is set up to do that, then it will start playing the sound on your phone really loud so you can hear it. Now, again, If you're missing your phone, this is the way you're going to try to find it. If you don't have another device on or laptop or something else on your account to find your phone, but knowing that you can trigger it with your Alexa or your Google Home Assistant and just say the command, find my phone, and then all of a sudden now that triggers the find my phone function on your iPhone and plays the sound that you need. That's, again, a pretty great practical thing to add if you want that capability just to be able to say it out loud in your house, and your digital assistant can pick it up and run with it. So
yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Do you have another one to share, Brian?
Yeah, I've got a couple more. So, well, one, I just realized I probably should have followed up on the last one. As I looked into this, push a button and start timing my work hours, I also noticed that there's another way you can tie Google Maps into the Google Sheets and say, for example, I work at a university, and if I said, I really want to see how much time I spend at the university or how much time I spend in the office, and you could go into create, again, like a geofence area around the university or around my office, and anytime that I am inside that area, it will trigger and say, okay, I've now started logging your time. And when you leave that, it stops logging your time, and then you get back in and it starts logging it again. So you could have a spreadsheet at the end of the week that says, here's how many hours I actually spent in the office, right? It's kind of a nice way of tracking how much time you're there. Maybe I might put it around a particular bar and say, well, here's how much time I spent at that bar, right? This last month, drinking a little too much.
Right.
So you might have lots of different ways in which you could say, when I'm in this location, I want you to keep track of the time that I'm there. And I think that's kind of cool because, again, it's connecting two different services, the Google Maps, which is having access to, and then it's also the Google Sheets and kind of writing to it. So I think that one's kind of cool.
I agree. I think that's actually really cool. I'm actually thinking about it from my own situation here. We have the setup in our office where I have the lights in my office come on whenever I enter the geofence area around my building. So they're on when I get here and they turn off when I leave that area. But if I could actually be logging the time, it'd be nice to be able to look back at a past week and say, all right, how many hours was I really in the office? That would be kind of interesting, just to know that's being logged to a spreadsheet automatically is great. One other thing I was going to mention, one other kind of use I do, which again has nothing to do with voice commands. So I do want to go ahead and say that we've tried to mention a few that are more, you could possibly use your voice to activate. This one doesn't, but just since we're talking IFTTT, I just think is really cool. I use a lot of different services to store files. We've got Dropbox we use for work a lot. We've got a Google Drive account where I keep some stuff for another project I work on. It really depends on what service I need to use for what clients as to whether or not I put files up in a Google Drive or I put them in a Dropbox or somewhere else like that. But a lot of times I get myself confused. I'm like, well, I put a file up there and I know I set it up in Google Drive, but I need to go find it, or maybe I really am looking in Dropbox and I thought it was in Google Drive, but it's not. So you can actually create an IFTTT routine, and there's ones already made, that will automatically sync any new files you add to, for example, your Dropbox account, automatically duplicate them and add them to your Google Drive account and vice versa. So imagine if you're using multiple services to store files, but you always want to make sure they're constantly in sync with each other. This routine can run in the background. Basically what it does is it looks for a new file to be created or added to one of those accounts. And the minute it sees that happen, it creates a duplicate version on the other service.
Nice.
So again, if you're someone who finds yourself with files in different places and different online services, and you kind of want to make sure everything's in one place, or you could go to one service and find all of them, this is a way to do it without driving yourself crazy. And again, it's all triggered on looking for a new file being added to one of those two services and to do the sync process in the background. Once you've set it up, you never need to touch it again. It just keeps running, and you're always going to have a little more confidence. Your stuff's visible in either service you're looking in. So
that gets me thinking, Alan. Do you, and haven't looked this up, but does IFTTT, have you seen anything about duplicate calendar events? So I have an issue where I have two calendars that I balance. I have a work calendar and then I have a personal calendar. But there are I really need both working because one works with an automated service, the other one does not. and I'm constantly having to duplicate and saying, well, someone scheduled a meeting here. I need to also put that on my personal calendar so that no one grabs that spot. It seems like IFTTT could be used to say, anytime you see a new calendar event in this calendar, go and create the exact same one
I'm
in this
sure
calendar.
there's a way to do it.
Yeah,
gotta be a
so
way. But you're right. That
incredibly
would kind of
slick.
keep all your calendars
So you
in
start,
sync.
the whole idea here is you're thinking about all the things that I do repetitively that are frustrating, that take my time, that simply could be done with some triggers, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. One of the things I do not use, but I noticed that it also can connect with Fitbit, right? If you have a Fitbit on your wrist, it's got lots of things that could happen. To say, for example, if you had Fitbit and Fitbit app, and you also had a coffee machine that was Wi-Fi enabled, and it says, if I do not receive X amount of sleep, go ahead and brew a very strong cup of coffee the next morning.
Yeah.
So some super cool things that happen
That is fun.
that basically say, well, I looked like you were very restless last night. We're brewing a big cup of coffee this morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I saw another one that said, if you meet your fitness goal for the week, so you set a goal, you can actually connect it to some of these. I think there's a savings account service that says, take X amount from my checking account and move it to my savings account. So it said, reward yourself for meeting your goals by saving yourself $5, and putting that aside. Just little things that you'd like to do that kind of take effort, take you remembering doing them. And there might be ways of automating, which I think would be incredibly smart to do. So
let me give two more quick ones here real quick.
Sure.
And these are really, really kind of simple in what they do, but I think they're also kind of fun. And again, a reminder of what you can accomplish with more scripting, and which is what IFTT does in the background, this more automated sequence of events. We've had a lot of rain here in our part of North Carolina the last couple of weeks. Rain. Do you know what that's like, Brian, up in the Portland, Oregon area?
I've heard of it. Yeah,
is that something that happens?
We tend to have
bit?
some rain. Yeah.
I was thinking maybe you had a little bit there. I think when I came to visit for a week, it rained 6.5 out of the 7 days.
So. Yeah. I think it would have been a better question to ask. Do you know what the sun looks like? Right. Yeah, we haven't seen that in a while.
Well, I've joked with everybody since being there over the holidays. I think I brought this weather back home because it's rained quite a bit. So, for example, so let's say you're somebody that likes to know when you're inside your house if it's raining outside. Okay, just think about you're inside. Maybe you haven't been out all day, or you're just trying to decide if you're going to be heading out outside and you don't know what to dress, or you just want to be aware of it raining. There's a script on IFTTT you could add if you have a Hue light bulb, like you've mentioned before, Brian, some of your Philips Hue light bulbs, and you connect it to your weather account, like your Weather Underground or any other weather service that you have an account with. You can tell it that if it starts to rain, to turn all your lights blue in your house. And I just thought about it. I kind of chuckled when I heard it. I'm like, that sounds kind of dumb. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Actually, that's kind of genius. So if you're just sitting there, maybe you're getting ready to go head out and run some errands, and you look and like, oh my gosh, the lights are blue. It's raining outside. I can go ahead and be prepared for rain. That's really cool.
Okay.
Another one, again, seems pretty simple when it comes to weather. We can ask our smart assistants anytime we want to, like, what's the weather like right now? Or what's the weather forecast maybe for the coming days? But what a script can do through IFTTT is you can say, you know what, at 7 a.m. every morning, I want you to send me a weather report. So it's going to show up on your phone exactly at 7 o'clock every day, and it's going to be a weather report for the day. So in other words, that may be your daily briefing of weather. That's just coming to you automatically. Again, it's something you could ask your digital assistant for every morning at about 7 a.m. and still get. But the idea of scripting it means you don't have to go ask them. It will just show up at 7 a.m. on your phone, your device, or whatever you get it on. So those are the kind of things that really, I think, are helping illustrate what we're talking about. Is it's routines, it's automated steps, it's multiple steps in a row, in incorporating a lot of different services and devices that don't always work together as cleanly, but this kind of service can help bridge them a lot better.
Yeah. And so, I mean, wouldn't you say it's probably a good thing for people to do to think about their day-to-day routines, and if there are things they do repetitively and they don't particularly care to do them, but they have to do them, right? I have to ask, or I have to pull up a website in order to figure out what the weather is today. If there are things you're doing constantly that you think, I need that information or I need that to happen, but I would rather not have to try to remember to do it every day, you can find some really cool IFTTT kind of skills that you can enable. So I think it's a great service. It's fantastic.
And it's free.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing we need to
Free.
make sure everybody understands. It is free. You just get an account with it. You set up your account, and then you just have to go through the process of connecting these different services and devices. First time you set up a routine or a script, and it has to connect with a lot of your accounts. It's some steps involved. And there's got to be you do have to think through kind of what you're doing with this. It's not just as easy as just click a button and say, yep, start doing that. You do have to tell it, hey, connect to my Google account. Do I want it to create a brand new spreadsheet on my Google account when it does this? Log into my weather account if I want to use my local weather. All these things you still have to kind of set up to do. That's why it's probably a deep dive 3 for us, because I think it takes a little more energy to think about what you're wanting to automate and making sure you've got all the right services connected. You definitely need to test it out and make sure that it connected and performed the way you're expecting. But the great thing is that once it's done and it's tested and it's good, you got it running from there on out going forward. Brian, one of these things, and I need to find it on there. I know they're on there, which I've always thought was fascinating. And I'm so tempted to set this up, but I'm just so scared it could go really, really bad if I didn't pay attention.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. This is good.
This idea that if you passed away, what all could you have scripted to happen upon that happening? Okay, so I've heard people who have created these routines and scripts that say, look, if I pass away, I want to send an email with login and passwords for all my services to this family member. I want to discontinue this service. I want to do this, or I want to do that. Or I want to send a letter to someone that tells them exactly how I thought about them that I didn't want to say when I was alive. All these things you could script and do. And the way I've seen some people actually come up with these scripts is to say, look, I check email every day. I am on my phone every day. If a day goes by where I don't check my email or look at my phone, that is the trigger to say, I have deceased.
Sorry.
So then
start the dominoes.
Start the script going and let all these other things happen. Now, there are many, many reasons I will probably never put one of those in place, because sure enough, there'll be a day where I forget to do the thing that
I'm going to get the random text that says, I'm gone. Alan is gone.
My idea was I want to record a video of me addressing my loving family or all of my friends and tell them all the things I've ever wanted to say or all the things I felt like it's important to know about me or whatever. My fear is just that gets sent out and I'm still alive, and that could be a real problem. So, but it's just an example of, if you really want to script your life, I think you could get pretty extreme on all sides. Just be careful, because that's the thing about automation, is that once you put it in place and it's a routine that happens, it's going to keep happening all the time until you tell it to stop. So just be mindful of that too, is that it may sound great to automate that. Yeah, every hour I want you to send me a notification that I need to drink water. And that's great. But just keep in mind, it's going to send you a notification every hour that you need to drink water until you tell it to stop or turn it off. So
how long will that last, right?
Just be mindful of the fact that automation is great, but it is called automation for a reason, and it will continue until you tell it to stop. So,
and I would also say this is not a good service to be playing around with after having a few drinks. I'll tell you that could be really dangerous. Yeah. I'm just looking right now. Not that I've had any drinks. It's actually in the morning here right now, but so I haven't had that many. But Dominos is an app that actually has lots of things that you could enable. For example, order Dominos if a world record is broken. So any time that a world record is broken, you'll get Dominos ordered to your house.
Why would you? I don't even understand why you would want that.
I'm thinking you're celebrating. You're celebrating the world record being broken.
Just notify. I'm sure there's
order Dominos whenever my mom calls. How's that? So your mom calls on every Sunday at 6 o'clock, and you usually want to have pizza on Sundays at 6 o'clock. So it's going to order when your mom
Oh,
calls.
that's so weird.
Given your situation, order Domino's whenever it rains. I mean,
Oh,
that could be
man.
bad.
That
Out
could be
here,
really
we'd be
bad.
eating Domino's all the time, right? But
Now, all right, on
so
the
there's lots of
Domino's
cool
side,
things.
no, that's
Yeah.
great. I don't really understand some of the practicality on those, but I will tell you a Domino's script that is practical. If you
Yep.
have lights on your porch that are
Yes,
Wi-Fi
yes.
lights, you can set up a script to say that when Domino's delivers your pizza, because if you use the Domino's app service to order your pizza, the app knows when that person is ready to deliver your pizza. Have it to where the porch lights come on, front door lights come on, as they're at that delivery status on your pizza order. So that way you don't have to remember to go turn on the lights if it's at night and it's dark, or your street lights or your sidewalk lights or whatever it may be. You can actually script that. That's a really great practical use for that.
It's perfect.
Being considerate to make sure your lights are lit up, but you don't have to remember to go turn them on and off before and after. So
And I think I
what
noticed
that's-
you could also have your lights inside start to blink, which would suggest, hey, go ahead and start heading to the door.
Oh,
because
or
they're
put the
over there.
dog
Yeah.
up or whatever you need to
Yep.
do. Yep.
Yep, exactly.
No,
So-
that's great because again, we order something, we're kind of just waiting on pins and needles, and then you have to wait for that doorbell or the knock on the door, and then you still got to get to the door and do all that stuff. With this, it's kind of giving you high alert. Pizza's almost here.
Yep.
Man your stations.
That's right. The saliva starts and everything's
That's right.
good. Everything's running.
Yeah.
So
Some
it's
really cool stuff. Actually, the more we've talked about it, Brian, these last 20 minutes, I'm more excited now to go online.
Oh, I'm
and,
totally
set up
into
some
it.
more
Yeah.
again. So
No.
I will say
I'm
as
just-
kind of a follow-up before we wrap up on this, this is one service. I know there are some other services similar to IFTTT that have kind of started up or out there. We're talking about IFTTT because it is kind of the Mac Daddy of them. It's the one everybody knows. It's the one that probably has the deepest library. But it's not to say that that's the only way you can set up these automated routines. There are other services and software that can do some of the same functionality. We are going to explore Apple's latest scripting language. It's called Siri Shortcuts that works very similar to IFTTT, but it is all contained on your Apple devices. Not as expensive, definitely nowhere as many connections to other services, but it allows you to build some scripting of certain actions that happen in step and are triggered by Siri, by your voice. It's exciting, it's interesting. I've played with it just a little bit, just enough to know that there are some capabilities there. So I do think we'll probably explore that maybe in a future topic episode down the road. But just to know that there are other ways to build automation. It's not just this IFTTT service, but the fact that it's free, the fact that it's so ubiquitous, it has so many different connection points. Again, I've found so many scripts on here that I can't ever imagine using, but it's cool to know they're there. It's just a really easy way to get it set up and connect it to your Alexa, your Google Home, or whatever it may be. And I think you'll have a lot of fun playing with the kind of stuff you can do there.
Yeah, just searching through the site will kind of spark lots of ideas of,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that I might be able to do that, and that would be super helpful. So,
Well, and think about this
Good.
too, Brian, is that you could go as your family tech support person. If there are some things your family members, are doing as routines, and you can go in and create an account for them without them having to really be that involved, create an account
Yeah.
for them, go and set up those routines and just let it roll. And, man, you come out looking like the hero that you've just completely automated some really cool steps for your family members. If you've got a parent that really always likes to know what the weather's going to be like, okay, we'll set them up a script so they get that weather report sent to them every morning at 7 a.m. How cool is that? You've just made their life a little bit easier and you've done it for them. So
I think it'd be really cool. And then, they could get a pizza whenever a world record is broken. And I mean, and they
Alan-
would not know how it arrived.
Alan,
I don't
I
know.
had 5 pizzas delivered today. Do you know what's going on? Did you turn on something?
Mom, let's just celebrate the fact that 5 world records were broken today. So I think this is good. Yeah.
Some good
This
stuff.
could
It's
be
a lot of
this.
fun.
So this could be level 1 that you could jump in as a level 4, create this for a level 1, and they have no idea how to turn it off.
Yeah.
This would be awesome. This is
Yeah,
so
I would
good.
say if you really want to punish somebody, this may be a good way to do that, is set up some
Yeah,
scripts that
yeah.
they're not aware of. Anyway, I do feel like that there's some, you take a look at your own situation, your family situation. Say, all right, are there some things that we are doing, find ourselves doing all the time, or I have to remember to do, or I'm doing in sequence already. I'm doing this, and then I have to go do this, that I could script and make it automatic. And that's kind of what this service does. So that's why we wanted to really spend our last deep dive on this, because it's probably the one you could get the most intense on and just really dig into so deep and go into a lot of different directions with. So, but you do need to have some knowledge of what you're doing and what you're setting up, and connectivity with all your devices, your services, or whatever you're using. So be ready for that kind of logging in and connecting a lot of services once you start playing with this.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And when we would love to, I would love to hear what people are using, if they've
that'd be
got some
great.
great examples, right? So, we've got the email address, info@themesh.tv, info@themesh.tv. So you could send us feedback, but you could also tell us how you're using IFTTT or one of the automation apps. I think we'd love to hear some ideas and try to figure out, what random food you're getting delivered during odd times of the year. That would be awesome.
So
That was fun, Alan.
So we could also set up some of those routines for like our brothers, right? I mean, that's something we could do. All right. You may just want to keep an eye out on things, Brian. There's no telling what may be going on in your house soon.
When you get those adult diapers delivered again. You might wonder if it's an automation. Make this a regular occurrence, Amazon.
Every Monday, I need a new shipment sent to me. All right, good deal. Well, this has been a lot of fun. So that is our last deep dive on the topic of digital assistants. We do recommend that if, for whatever reason, if you jumped into this episode first, go back and you can recap and listen to. I'm sorry, but listen to the deep dive episode about digital assistants, and then, listen to the main episode about digital assistants, and then the 2 deep dives in addition to this one that we've released. That kind of covers our discussion of digital assistants for now. We are going to move on to a new topic for next month, so stay tuned for that. And if you have any suggestions or ideas, as Brian mentioned, please feel free to send us an email and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. All right. So for Brothers in Tech, we're going to go ahead and sign off. Brian, thanks a lot. Look forward to talking to you next time. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see everybody next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.